Sovereignty and Executive Powers Act. This is not in support of the so-called sovereign citizens movement. Footnote 1. My contempt and ridicule of the movement is noted over 5 pages, starting on slide 2. In the presentation, Executive Powers and Sovereignty Act. See source link on description page. This is a follow-up, restating of my posting of the Executive Powers and Sovereignty Act. I am doing this because of the importance of the subject. This touches back to when the United States Constitution was written. To its first words, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. We the people did form this country. We the people of the United States, as citizens of this country, are the true sovereigns of this land under the United States Constitution. Sovereignty and Executive Powers Act, Future Amendment, Title I, Preamble, Section 10101, Acknowledgement of the character of signers of the Constitution. We the people did form this country, and we the people do fully acknowledge that, though at the time of the writing of this Constitution, it was meant to codify the power of the land towards the landed gentry, and do fully announce that that concept is no longer considered proper in a civilized nation. Section 10102. Civilization has evolved beyond that, just as we no longer find it civilized to own other human beings, nor to treat any woman as simply chattel to her father or husband. No, we have moved past that and other strange notions that the writers may have had about what is right and proper. Further, we do note that we do find that the Constitution's biggest failure is that it does not clearly state that the people of the United States are all equals in rights and powers, that no one is to have more rights or powers than another, nor, convexly, that no one is to have less rights or powers than another. We the people do rejoice in the fact that all human beings living upon our lands have equal rights. Section 10103, the legal holders of sovereignty, that the only separation in powers and rights exists in 3 factors. A. Citizenship. This gives individuals the right to vote, to remain within, and to move about this country without restrictions, except for special circumstances. 1. As opposed to legal or illegal residence. B. Status between minor and major, based on the age of majority, voting age, set by this Constitution. This is meant to set a clear separation point between childhood and adulthood. Second, this dividing line is meant to note that we provide additional protections for our young, to note their legal immaturity in many matters. A. It is thus required that they have proper legal guidance and/or guardianship. Notably, it notes when one is old enough to vote and to sign contracts on their own initiative. This line is also put in place to protect those who have mental disabilities, no matter when these disabilities manifested, no matter how these disabilities came to be, no matter if they happen before birth or are acquired later. 2. No matter if they happen because of genetics, disease, accident, unknown happenstance, or self-afflicted. A. No matter if the manner of the self-afflicted method was known to result in the disability. Article 1, Title I, Sovereignty. Section 10201. The people's sovereignty over the government. We, the adult citizens of the United States, as the lawful voters of the land, do hold sovereignty outright supremacy over those whom we have hired by our votes to run this country. All members of the U.S. government, no matter if hired by the voters directly, those that are hired by those that are voted in, and on through the chain of hired by hired, are the employees of the U.S. citizenry. As such, are subject to the citizenry of the United States by the articles, sections, clauses, and amendments of the United States Constitution, and by the laws of this country. Section 1, Section 10301, Proclaiments of False Sovereignty. Given that no individual is sovereign of this land, no one can proclaim that they or another is sovereign. If a member of the United States government states they or another is sovereign, this individual needs to be investigated on two fronts. A. Note, upon becoming a member of the United States government, individuals have sworn to comport themselves to the Constitution and the laws of this nation. Thus, these actions can be done without further consent upon verified action. B. 1. Physical and mental examination for signs of mental defect. Second. 2. Of actions, activities, and friendships to see if they are working to commit acts of sedition against the United States. D. 3. The laying of false charges of sedition against an individual of the United States government. It can lead to, besides charges for the filing of false charges, under certain circumstances, of themselves having committed a seditious act. 1. Certain high members of the United States could be considered to have laid charges without filing a formal complaint because of the gravitas of their position within the government. Section 2, Section 10401, Granted Authority. No government official holds any form of higher authority over the citizens of the U.S. beyond that was laid upon them by the Constitution of the United States, and further codified by the laws of the United States. Article 2, Title 1, Executive Power, Section 1, Section 10501, Ending the Imbalance of Power. Towards this end of providing fair and balanced power, we do note here that, unlike Congress and the Supreme Court, full executive power resides within only one individual in the executive branch of our government. With this amendment, we the people do end that imbalance. Section 2, Section 10601, Elevation of Authority. This amendment does elevate the offices of Secretary of the Treasury for the United States and Attorney General for the United States to independent elected offices. These positions are of enough importance to be independent of the Presidency of the United States. These elevated positions shall keep all present authority, shall remain members of the Presidential Cabinet, and shall remain primary advisors to the President. But being elected to office shall no longer be under the authority of the President of the United States. They are thus more able to serve the people of the United States as independent individuals, without resistance from the President of the United States. Section 3, Section 10701, Creation of Positions of Authority. This amendment creates two new, directly elected cabinet offices. Both are meant to keep in check all other members of the executive branch from doing things that are against the will of the people, especially when those actions go against this Constitution and the laws of the United States. Section 10702. Duties of the new positions of authority. They, along with an independent Attorney General, are meant to keep the government uncorruptible, to keep in check all members of the U.S. government, no matter if hired by the voters directly, those that are hired by those that are voted in, and on through the chain of hired by hired. A. New Position 1. Secretary General of the United States. 1. The Secretary General is the officer of record, the keeper of the records for the United States. It is their responsibility not only to guard all of the records of the United States, to make sure all records remain in government hands, and to make sure that not only do our secrets remain that, 2, but that all records of responsibility of public information are openly available to the people of the United States. 3. The United States shall not keep things the American voters need to know secret from them. 4. We the people have a right to know what is happening. 5. The citizenry has the right to know when things have gone wrong. The citizenry has a right to know the truth, no matter if it is ugly or beautiful. New Position 2. Inspector General of the United States. The Inspector General is the financial auditor of the United States government for the people of the United States. We cannot allow monetary considerations to be the deciding factor for individuals working for the United States government. Corrupt people must not be allowed inside the government, and corruptors must be found, and both need to be prosecuted for their actions. Section 4, SEC 1801, New Order of Presidential Succession. Given that this amendment creates or elevates to directly voted-in cabinet positions, these positions should, mostly, be higher in the order of succession than the non-directly elected. So, New Order of Succession is Vice President, Secretary of the Treasury, Attorney General, Secretary General, Speaker of the House, President pro tempore of the Senate, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Commerce, Secretary of Labor, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Education, Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Secretary of Homeland Security, and lastly, Inspector General. Section 10802. Reasons for New Order of Presidential Succession. This order not only reflects tradition, but also gives way to 3 individuals directly elected to the executive branch. The Inspector General's role as guardian is reflected in the position being last on the list. Section 10803. Official enactment of the designated survivor. We have long had the practice of choosing a designated survivor, not to attend events, to keep someone alive in the case of an incident. This amendment adds this action to the Constitution, but amends the practice to 2 individuals, one from the now directly elected members of the Cabinet, who shall become President, the other from the traditionally appointed members of the Cabinet, who is to become Vice President. Each is to be chosen randomly from the lists of candidates, hopefully, but unknowable if it would have. These changes could have prevented some of the worst scandals in the history of the United States government. But these changes should prevent future scandals like those we have had and are going through now from happening in the future. Though giving the inventiveness of man, human beings will likely find new ways of creating corruptive practices and scandals. An old saying, for the who's, what's, and why's of this act, please read the earlier version, Footnote 1, see source link on description page. President Dwight D. Eisenhower. A people that values its privileges above its principles soon loses both. Inaugural Address, Washington, D.C., January 20th, 1953. A sound nation is built of individuals sound in body and mind and spirit. Government dares not ignore the individual citizen. Rally in the public square, Cleveland, Ohio, October 1st, 1956. Democracy is essentially a political system that recognizes the equality of humans before the law. Address to Constituent Assembly, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, August 8, 1946. Today in America, unions have a secure place in our industrial life. Only a handful of unreconstructed reactionaries harbor the ugly thought of breaking unions. Only a fool would try to deprive working men and women of the right to join the union of their choice. Speech to the American Federation of Labor, New York City, September 17, 1952. Don't join the book burners. Don't think you are going to conceal faults by concealing evidence that they ever existed. Don't be afraid to go in your library and read every book as long as that document does not offend our own ideas of decency. That should be the only censorship. Dartmouth College Commencement Exercises, Hanover, New Hampshire, June 14, 1953. In the long perspective of history, the right to vote has been one of the strongest pillars of a free society. Our first duty is to protect this right against all encroachment. State of the Union Message, Washington, D.C., January 7, 1960. The opening for the Constitution of the United States. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. President Franklin Roosevelt. We must especially beware of that small group of selfish men who would clip the wings of the American eagle in order to feather their own nests. Part of a speech delivered on January 6, 1941.